It's finally time to plant in the garden. The cool flowers are ready. The seedlings look great. It's time to plant. The raised garden is ready to plant in. There are gaps to fill in. These seedlings are going to be perfect in this space. Half the garden is already planted and full of life. I've got single tulips bursting forth. I think buds are going to be set soon. I have strawberries. I have garlic going. Daffodils are about to open any moment, and there are space for these cool flowers to fill in the rest of the garden. Our lows are starting to get warmer and warmer at night. I'm having to cover our ranunculus less and less, and look at all this growth. It's going to be in the 60s next week, and I think before I know it, I'm going to be seeing the bloom stem starting to push up. So I'm going to start with my stock for planting. I sowed these on January 10th, and they are cool hardy, so they can take a frost. They can't take a really hard frost. So sometime this week, we don't have frost in the forecast, but sometime this week, we're going to be putting hoops, 3 hoops in this bed so that I can put frost cloth over as needed, because we probably still have a couple more frost left sometime in March. So I want to be prepared. Stock can be planted very close together, 4 to 6 inches. So I should have probably more than enough space in this bed to plant out my 3 different varieties. I'm going to start by pulling apart my little blocks and doing my spacing, and then because these soil blocks are so teeny tiny, there'll be a breeze to get planted in this fluffy soil I just top dressed the bed with. That took a lot longer than I thought, but I got everything planted, and now that everything's in the garden, I thought I'd do a little walk around, tell you what has already been planted, that was planted in the fall, and how it's looking with all of its growth, as well as just point out all of the things that I put in the ground today. So I'm at the front entrance, and on either side of me are my David Austin climbing roses. The variety is Strawberry Hill. I pruned a couple days ago, and it's still only the end of February, but these roses are pushing out a ton of growth. It's nice to see they overwintered well, but I'm honestly a bit surprised at how much they're leafed out. They're low now, but this will be their second year, so I expect and hope that they get about as high as me by the end of this season, which will be really fun. In the fall, I planted a couple hundred mixed bag daffodils. Now, daffodils are perennials that will naturalize, so they're not going to live here forever, but I wanted some early spring color in the garden right away. So they're in my entry beds. Some of them are already starting to bud up, which is really exciting. My plan is to let them bloom, enjoy the early spring color, and then they will get dug up and transferred over to my permanent perennial daffodil patch that's in the very front of the property. So these will get moved, but I'm excited to have some of the cheery yellow color in the garden. The main show in the garden right now is all of the tulips. Sometime in December, we planted almost 3,000 tulips in the raised bed, if you can believe it. And almost all of them have broken ground. Some beds are farther along than others, depending on the variety, largely the variety. This is all single bloom tulips. I've got parrots in another bed and some mixed smaller boxes of smaller variety quantities that I bought. But they look really great. Nothing looks like it's going to bloom too short yet, but I'm eyeing it almost every single day. But probably by the end of March, I'll be harvesting and selling tulips, which is so exciting. I was able to fit all of my stock in a 3x6 bed, and now that I see it all out, I could have started even more stock. So I'm making a note for that for next year, that I have way more room than I think I do. But I also left room for the hoops we need to put in, and I'm really excited to see these guys bloom in April and their wonderful scent. So every single spot in this garden is not totally filled, but I have a lot of things. I've got my second year hollyhocks that are starting to push growth. They didn't bloom first year because they're a biennial, but they're pushing new growth and I'm excited to see blooms. I have a mix of my strawberry bed and bachelor buttons here that look nice. And then I just sowed a bunch of carrots in this bed and some snap peas to grow up my trellis, which I'm really excited about. This bed here on my left didn't have great germination, but it's filled with larkspur, so I'm just going to let it do its thing, and then it'll be planted with some summer annuals. To balance, I've got peas on the other side of this trellis. We filmed a video a week or so ago of planting onions. I can link it in the description. The onions look great. They're not all knocked over. Look like they transplanted well. Just keep an eye on them. I'm going to add some mulch here when they get a little bit taller, but the onion bed looks great. And to my right here, I planted out a bunch of nigella. And again, I'll link the video. If you're not sure what these look like, you can look in that video where we added pictures. Tons of nigella. This bed here is half elephant onion garlic. No, not onion garlic. That's not a thing. Elephant garlic, which is like huge garlic bulbs. And then we had a bunch of extra tulips at the end of the tulip project. So they're at the end there. Rounding out the corner, I did a bunch of planting in this corner. We got more nigella, and then behind me, I planted out probably 60 Chinese forget-me-nots, which I'm very excited to see. This bed is my wildflower bed. I scattered wildflower seed last spring. I had tons of asters, gaillardia, all sorts of fun summer plants, but bachelor buttons, nigella, and larkspur are coming up that clearly sat dormant all summer, got their winter chill, and have germinated or growing. So I put the rest of my bachelor buttons that I started in here to really fill out this bed, and I hope it's just like the wonderful spring wildflower bed. Here is feverfew. I was so surprised at the root systems of these feverfew. I think they needed to go in maybe even a week earlier. But this is feverfew. Feverfew is darling. It almost looks like a chamomile, and it'll be a great filler flower for my spring bouquets with snapdragons and peonies and that sort of thing. All of my cattle panels are getting peas. I'm going to grow peas up them. Once the peas are done with the heat, beans will go on the cattle panels. The last of the planting I did was bupleurum. So this bed next to one of the roses and daffodils has bupleurum, which is another wonderful foliage flower to go with my spring focal flowers. I would say at this point I'm almost completely done with the spring planting that I'm going to do in the raised garden. It is probably 70% full. The rest I'm leaving covered in mulch and open for April planting of direct sowing that I want to do for summer annuals and summer veggies and all of that, that I have some beds that are open that can be planted right away, and I don't have to wait for some of these spring things to finish. So it's always kind of that tango succession planting that you have going on. I don't like to have open spaces, but I'm trying to be disciplined to leave some of this open so that in April right away I can be planting sunflowers and zinnias and my perennials that I have growing right now on the seedling racks, that they have homes to go in, because a lot of these spring things will be blooming in April and May. So if I filled everything up right now, I'd have to wait even longer for the summer annuals and perennials and stuff to go in. But I'm really excited. It was really fun to get my hands in the soil and actually plant things and not just be sowing seeds endlessly in the cottage, but actually getting out here. So subscribe and come back, and this is just going to be a beautiful, colorful wonderland come April and May. We'll see you in the next video.